Celine didn't answer Raul's words of concern. Watching how the elf acted, James smiled slightly. I'm sure that she appreciated that. He made sure to keep his thoughts to himself. He didn't want to make the elf woman annoyed at him for his teasing. They all slowly began moving forward, a significant amount of time already having passed after dealing with the investigation into what James thought he had seen earlier. James watched the elf in front of the group. Though she wasn't too far ahead of them, Celine carefully checked the surroundings. Her head slowly turned to check for any monsters. She was doing an excellent job of staying within sight while making her way from left to right of the group. While trying not to be distracted by Celine, James also looked out for any signs of monsters in the forest. The trees were all similar in appearance, making it difficult to concentrate. But James was worried about repeating what happened earlier, so he made sure to focus more on paying attention. The last thing I need is to imagine seeing something else, James sighed. Don't beat yourself up too much, Kate said. You didn't end up wasting time for the group. Now, we'll have to carry on through the night. James laughed self-deprecatingly. Raul turned to look at James. Kate is right. You're too hard on yourself. I agree with Mim that you likely saw something. And it wasn't your imagination. Though James was grateful for the attempt to cheer him up, it still stuck in his mind. Was it possible that I didn't imagine something? James couldn't help but wonder to himself. Thinking about whether he had imagined it or not made a slight chill run through his body. James didn't want to think about what it'd mean if what he saw wasn't a figment of his imagination. Shivering, April slowly woke up to the familiar darkness. She carefully searched with one hand and soon felt the familiar feel of wood, one of the roof's support beams. April couldn't help but remember the number of times that she'd wake up and hit her forehead on the beam, failing to remember where she was located. As the sensation of sleep faded away from her mind, it was soon replaced with a reminder of where she was. Her stomach grumbled to remind her. Despite her body complaining, April knew that it would be another day without food. Slowly, she turned her body, making sure not to fall off where she slept. The decaying board she rested on creaked slightly, as if not happy with her presence. The sound of the creak made her reactively pause. She used the hand that touched the beam to make sure no additional noise was made. A few seconds passed and April felt a feeling of relief. Using the beam to stabilize herself, April used her other hand to reach out to another beam parallel to the one she was holding onto. Grunting, she lifted herself up. Swinging slightly, April released her hand from the initial beam and grabbed onto the second one. Her ab muscles tightened as she kept her legs straight before slowly maneuvering them to hang below her. Closing her eyes, April let go of the beam that she was hanging from and dropped into the opening next to where she slept. The moment her feet touched the ground, she allowed her knees to bend in order to absorb the impact. April took a second to make sure that there were no sounds before she walked forward in the darkness.